Alright, this is Top Gun, the video game, and this was one of the first flight simulators that I ever remember playing, and it always messed me up because they released a special controller for this game where it was basically like you were in the plane cockpit and you had a joystick, so pressing down actually moves you up, and then pressing up moves you down as if you're pushing the stick forward to go down. So it took a little getting used to. And it's got a lot of these kind of gaps where nothing's really happening. We just have to wait. So like we take off and then we have to wait until we get to the proper speed and altitude. So the first level we're just training. So we're getting used to all the controls, and we've got to shoot down some enemy MiGs. And it's always going to want to pull you back to the horizon. So that's kind of your default screen right here, and when you push forward and you go down a little, it's going to want to pull you back up. So that also takes a little bit of getting used to, and we've just got to line up some of the jets here, and we can fire with our gun with A, and then B brings up your target, and then you have to hit B again to launch the missile. And we took the most basic missile on this first one because it has the highest capacity, and one missile is just going to take out a jet, so we don't have to worry about power on this level at all. And then you see when they fire missiles at you, you can shoot them down. And that's one of the best ways you can survive it. And when they get behind you like that, you just got to go to one side and then the other to shake them off. It's a real basic kind of tactic. So we'll just keep shooting some jets out of the air as we continue to go along. And then if you're not going to hit the missile, you want to make sure it's not on the screen. You want to dive or climb to avoid getting hit. So one missile will kill you. You can take like 3 or 4 hits from machine guns before you lose a life. A lot of time they have the planes stacked. Going up or down, and we really can't see if the missiles ever hit those guys, but I'm guessing they don't. So here's what I'm talking about when they have them stacked. Now if I was playing better, I could have just hit them in line going down, but I wasn't. And we'll just launch a few missiles, and that'll bring us to our landing sequence. And for this, I just kind of ignored a lot of the instructions. I just basically held level and then let the speed decline. You can see on the bottom of the main screen that in the middle there that it's showing you your altitude needs to be 200 and your speed needs to be 288. So I just kind of let the plane coast to around the 288. And you can hit A to give yourself a little bit of a speed boost, and B will slow you down. And then up and down changes your pitch. So I like to put a little bit of up on the jet when I'm coming in, and then when we get around 288, I'll hit the A to give it a little boost, and then I'll just kind of hit the A, let go, hit the A, let go, till we're kind of coasting in that 290 area. And you can see we just come in for a nice smooth landing. Get ourselves some nice bonus points. That gets us to mission number 2, where we've got to destroy an enemy aircraft carrier. For this one, we're going to take the most powerful missiles. We really want to be able to sink that aircraft carrier quickly. So again, we have to sit before takeoff and wait a little bit. And we'll start off with the same action as last level, where we're just taking on some jets. You can see them coming on the radar. Can't climb quite high enough to get them in time. We're able to adjust, hit a couple of them. Now we're going to start having some ships appear. And you want to be careful because the ships are sending out either machine gun fire or a cluster of like 3 missiles. And you can use your missiles to sink the ships pretty easily. But since we have the most powerful ones, we only have 10. So we really want to hold on to those to the end. Now there's a way to get more missiles on the way there, and I'll explain that when we get there in a little bit. But for right now, we're not launching any missiles. We're just kind of flying in between the ships on the radar. You can go down and sink them with your machine gun. It takes a few shots, but it's doable. You want to avoid their machine gun fire when you're going down to do that. I just think at first, when you're getting used to it, it's easier just to kind of fly to one side or the other and kind of slalom your way in between radar contacts. You can see we didn't have enough time to sink that ship with the jet coming at us. And we'll just shake off the enemy fighter that's coming from behind. And you see the cluster of 3 missiles, and we'll just dip to one side to get those off the screen. And move safely along. Take out a few more jets. Line up the ship properly to sink that one. As you can tell, this is not the most visually of stunning games. It's quite drab. So we just continue to take on any ships when we get a chance, and then we get a fuel alert, so we have to hit start. And then once we clear the skies, we have an in-flight fueling session that's going to come. And when we were kids, we didn't really know about in-flight fueling, so my friend always thought that this was just some enemy ship with a giant gun that it's trying to shoot him down, and you'd always just hit left, but then run out of fuel and be upset because they don't give you enough fuel. So you have to follow the instructions and line it up. And then once you finally get it down, you'll get connected, and there you go. They start filling up your fuel tank. Also, they will refuel any missiles you've used as long as you connect properly. So even if you have only 10 missiles, you can use those as often as you want leading up to the refueling. But be careful, if you don't connect, not only will you die because your fuel reserve runs out, when you die in that situation, they don't replace your missiles. So if you've used all of your missiles and then you don't refuel and have to go on your second life, then you will be out of missiles, and it'll make the ending sequence that much harder for this and other levels. But we get back to just shooting down some planes. And I wonder if you can just continuously fly at an upward trajectory and basically avoid everything. see we just barely managed to avoid that missile. We'll engage some of these jets. We're still kind of avoiding a lot of these ships. We were going to sink that one, but we get an enemy jet on our tail. We've got to shake him off. That puts us in a bad position to attack the ships. Then we are able to dodge some missiles, so we couldn't sink that one. And we might as well just keep on our merry way as we just kind of dip and dodge in between ships and take out any missiles that come our way. As you can see, since we didn't get a good lineup from the start, we weren't able to get enough shots onto that ship to sink it. But eventually it brings us to our first target, and like our takeoff, we have to just basically wait for us to get to the proper altitude. And then, once we get the enemy aircraft carrier on the screen, you can see its power in the upper right hand corner, but then we can just select the targeting and fire missiles, and it only takes us 3 missiles to finish that. And then we'll go directly to our landing sequence. So it's nice that you don't have to go through the rest of the level again to get back to your aircraft carrier and land, and it just goes right into your landing sequence. But it is kind of ridiculous. And then landing is just the same. Like I said, I got a little bit of an angle this time, and we're just kind of coasting. Basically, just really get used to the landing and refueling sections. They're going to probably be where you die the most in terms of failing to land or failing to refuel and then dying because you've run out of fuel. But again, I'm a little low, but we end up pulling it off. Get a nice little bit of landing there. Get our bonus points. So on level 3 here, we're going to destroy an enemy base. And we're going to go with the middle missile so we can be a little more easygoing with how much we fire off the missiles. We didn't need quite as much power to sink the aircraft carriers as I thought we might, so we'll try going with the mid-range missiles, so we'll still have a little bit of power when we get to the enemy base. But we'll be able to shoot down a lot more planes and ground units on this level. We're over the ground, we're going to see a lot of anti-aircraft guns and missile launchers coming up where they'll just replace the ships, but they function basically the same. So one of them just looks like a pole, and then you can see the other one's kind of like a tank. We just gotta keep our eye on the ground units and knock down any fighters that are coming at us. This one's some kind of weird box that we'll destroy with our missiles. Not really getting a lot of hits early on in this level. Kind of taking some hits too. We're not going to be able to catch that guy as he ascends. just because this is supposed to be a desert, but for some reason this is even more visually boring than the last level. Well, we went to take that guy out, and he kind of got us there. And again, we get our fuel warning. So we'll engage the refueling system. So as we get ourselves into a safe position. And this time, we have used 6 missiles, so you can keep an eye on that and watch that refuel. When we finally do get connected. I think the easiest way is kind of line it up and then just hit A to get the speed burst and then connect that way. They do give you a pretty decent amount of time to connect. Well, I'm having a terrible time connecting right now. Slowed down a little too much. The up and the down is really messing with me because you read up, but then you need to press down. So, because of the way the controllers are. But we do get loaded up there, we get connected, and so we get our full fuel tank, and now we've got our full complement of missiles back. We just go back to what we were doing. Knocking down some jets, engaging some of the anti-aircraft guns when we can, avoiding them when we can't. And we're going to lose that jet because we had to stop and destroy a missile before we were killed. About to engage in some ground units and shake off a jet. We are able to knock out a couple others. Just having trouble deciding which units to attack, and we seem to be hitting nothing. So it seems like when we line up a ground unit, a jet comes, and we can't get over to hit the jet, and then we're lining up to hit some jets, and then the ground units come, and we've got to avoid their attacks. So points-wise, it's not going to be a great turnout. And we took too many hits from the ground units, so we'll have to go on to our second life. Just start where we were in pretty much the same situation, and we do make it to our second target. So now we've got to descend into the attacking area. Start selecting the base as a target from out here, and we'll start launching. But you'll notice a lot of times when we start selecting, we are picking up some of the enemy jets as a target. So some of our missiles that we're trying to hit the base with actually hit jets. But we're able to launch quite a few and hit the base and take that out, and we'll be able to go right into our landing sequence. Got a little more air this time, I think. It's not really all that important. We just know that kind of just coast in. You don't want to get too far back on the stick and get pointed up too high, because when you do hit your speed boost to get up to the 288, that will affect your altitude and you can actually overshoot the aircraft carrier. But as long as you have just a little bit of air and you monitor that speed, you should be pretty good. See, we were at 250 altitude and we were able to land it. The last time we were at like 190. So you get a pretty decent range. And that gets us to mission 4, and we have to destroy the most evil thing in the world, the enemy Space-Shuttle. Now, the base took a lot more firepower than I thought it was going to, so we're going to go back to the most powerful missiles with the expectation that the Space-Shuttle will be more powerful than the base. And we didn't really use a lot of the missiles, so we didn't need a large complement of missiles for that level. And this level's kind of unique in that it's going to throw you all of your environments at you. This is the last level. So we start with the air-to-air. And we have the jets, and these ones do a lot of barrel rolls for no reason. So the pilots really like showing off before they get shot down. Misread the radar, so we got a little off. Now on this level, the jets are a little harder to shake, so you have to go to one side for a little bit, and then all the way to the opposite side, and then again to the first side that you were at, and you're back and forth. So now we go to air-to-sea combat, and you know the radar is nice enough to tell us that. Now these bigger planes, we'll use the missile on that. You can shoot them down with your machine gun, but they take a lot of hits, and sometimes you can't stay locked on long enough. And you can just let them go, I suppose. But again, we're just going to dodge a lot of the ship based fire, and then we'll shake loose that jet and then just keep moving forward. I'm not gonna, we could have probably shot down a couple of those missiles and then engaged that ship, but just felt like getting the missiles off screen so we could move safely was a more efficient way. And there we didn't really have time, but now we can readjust. We sank that one with a missile. We're going to rely on being able to refill on the refueling section. So since we've taken out a couple of planes and that ship with our missiles, really they've thrown a lot of flak up in the air, so we kind of had to dodge more than engage, and that'll bring us to the air-to-ground section. Actually finally able to actually shoot something instead of just dodge everything. And this one's a little weird because they start sending helicopters at you, and when we come up to a helicopter, you'll see it on the radar, and then it'll come up briefly, and then you'll just blow right past it because the helicopters are so slow. We'll see those after we refuel here. I mean, there's really Nothing different than what we've been doing before. The game kind of gets a little unoriginal as we get farther into it. See, that's probably the easiest one, where I was able to just line it up and then just get on the gas and drag that right into the connecting port. Alright, and it wants to remind us that we're back to air to ground. The ground has gone gray. I'm guessing this is supposed to be some kind of cityscape, and it's like a concrete. A whole lot of firepower coming up our way. And see, there's a helicopter that was in front of us. And you can see that was where I was talking about. You see them on the radar, you see them on your screen, but there's just no way you can turn fast enough to get to them because they're so much slower than you. And since we have most powerful missiles with the fuse capacity, I'm very reluctant to engage in a lot of the ground units using missiles. So that means we have to get into a more of a straight line approach where we can get our machine guns targeted on them quickly and then have a longer train of fire. So just not really lining things up well with trying to avoid being shot and engage fighters. We're just kind of dodging a lot more than we are engaging. I'm not the most skilled of pilots, so this is the technique that works best for me, as opposed to other people may be able to shoot down a lot more aircraft and engage ground units, but it does get us to our final target. And we've got our full complement of missiles. And this one seems to be taking an extra long time to get to the right altitude. And we can see it off in the distance. And just like the aircraft carrier and the base, we're targeting aircraft almost as much as we are the Space Shuttle, but we're able to take it out and have 2 missiles remaining. Go right into our landing sequence, and I believe this is supposed to be a night landing with the color change of the horizon. So we just gotta get ourselves lined up and do the same pattern we have been doing. And once we get onto the flight deck, they're going to go through the same pattern we have for the last few levels before giving us the ending sequence. So we see our bonus, we see our score, and then we get the ending sequence. So mine seem to be glitching. We get this nice wave. Then they tell us to press the start key, and when I press the start key, it has the letters go really fast in a blink. and we press it again, and nothing really happens. We just keep pressing, and then it takes us all the way back to the beginning where we have this jet. So it should go to this screen, which they gave me after I had died on a previous run. So it's kind of a glitch, but it should go from the landing to this congratulatory screen. So that's Top Gun the video game. I hope you enjoyed. Later.